Do you think you could live in a country where you literally have to walk over mountains of garbage? Where food is prepared right next to rats and open sewage? Where every street meal could be a direct invitation to an infection or something much worse? And we're not just talking about poverty. We're talking about total sanitary chaos. Whole communities living without garbage collection, without toilets, without clean water, and without any protection against contamination. Cities where trash takes over the streets and filth is so normal it's part of the landscape. Places where the air is so toxic that breathing for a single day is like smoking several packs of cigarettes. Where children play among open drains and millions of people live daily surrounded by the stench of death, rotten food, decomposing waste, and a dignity torn to shreds. In today's video, you're going to discover the 5 dirtiest countries in the world. Places where dirt isn't the exception, it's the rule. And if you thought India was the worst when it comes to dirt, get ready. There are things far more extreme. You'll see that in some countries, dirt runs just as deep as poverty, and that the daily struggle isn't just about food, but about surviving what you eat. But before we continue, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. It costs you nothing and helps me a lot to keep creating content for you. Embrace yourself, because what's coming will leave you in shock.
Number 1. Bangladesh. If you thought India would be number 1, you're wrong. The real champion of visible filth is Bangladesh, a country where life pulses in the middle of absolute chaos and where dirt has taken over the streets, rivers, and daily routine of millions of people. Bangladesh is the 8th most populated country on the planet and also the most densely populated. With a relatively small area of about 148,000 square kilometers and more than 170 million inhabitants, the population density exceeds 1,100 people per square kilometer. To put it in perspective, Bangladesh is almost the same size as Nepal, but with 6 times the population. It's literally one of the most overcrowded places on Earth. And the result? An urban explosion completely out of control, where basic infrastructure simply can't keep up. The country is a maze of narrow alleys, overcrowded markets, collapsing slums, and canals clogged with tons of garbage. The capital, Dhaka, is considered one of the most polluted cities in the world. The air is nearly unbreathable, filled with dust, smoke from burning trash, and toxic gases from illegal factories. But the most shocking part isn't in the air, it's on the ground. Mountains of garbage everywhere, sewage running between homes, and rats walking freely among people and food stalls.
And that's not all. The rivers of Bangladesh have turned into open sewers of wastewater and industrial waste. The Buriganga River, for example, which flows through the capital, used to be a key route for trade and transport. Today, it's a dead river, black in color, thick in texture, and with an unbearable stench. Still, you can see people bathing, washing clothes, and even fishing in those waters. Hard to believe, but it's the reality for millions. Street food is everywhere, abundant and cheap, but often prepared amid filth with zero hygiene. Stalls swarm with flies, water is reused again and again, and food handlers work with dirty hands. Common street snacks like pitas, rice cakes, fuchka, stuffed balls, and chatpoti, a chickpea mix with spices, are served in makeshift carts. The problem is that the water used for cooking and washing isn't treated, and utensils are rinsed in the dirty water running through the sidewalks. Eating in Bangladesh can be an adventure or a guaranteed stomach infection. To make things worse, the country constantly suffers from natural disasters. Floods drag garbage straight into homes, turning entire neighborhoods into open-air sewers. And then there's the work situation. Bangladesh is also an epicenter of slave-like labor, especially in the textile industry. Factories produce luxury clothes for brands like Zara, Gucci, Louis Vuitton, Burberry or Prada, but pay wages so low that workers can't afford even the basics. Many earn just $50 to $100 a month, working 12 to 14 hours a day. Bangladesh isn't filthy just by neglect. It's the result of extreme poverty, brutal overpopulation, endemic corruption, slave labor, and a total absence of efficient public policies. Surviving here is an art, but living with dignity is a luxury few can afford. If you're enjoying the video, give it a like and subscribe. That helps me a lot to keep bringing you more content like this. And don't forget to leave your opinion in the comments. We want to know what you think.
Number 2. India. If Bangladesh is the dirtiest country in the world, India is without doubt its closest rival. And here, filth isn't just a result of poverty, it's blended into the routine, the culture, and even the faith of a people who have learned to live with garbage as part of the landscape. India is known worldwide for its deep spirituality, majestic temples, and millenary culture. But it only takes stepping outside the airport and onto the streets to face a shocking reality. Garbage everywhere, sacred rivers turned into drains, cows rummaging through mountains of waste, human feces on sidewalks, and crowds walking through rubble and trash. That's the urban portrait of many Indian cities. Maybe what you'll remember most about India is its food, and for good reason. The streets are packed with vendors selling aromatic, colorful, exotic dishes full of spices. They attract you first with curiosity, and then with stomach pain.
In many of these street stalls, food is prepared with dirty hands. Utensils are barely washed, and there's no protection at all against insects. It's common to see flies covering the dishes, people coughing over the food, or washing plates with dark, dirty water scooped from buckets lying on the ground. The situation is so critical that travelers even have a popular term for it, Delhi belly, a nearly guaranteed intestinal infection for anyone who dares to try the country's street food. Diarrhea, vomiting, and dehydration are, sadly, part of the gastronomic tour. And the most curious and disgusting part is that in many places, rats walk freely among the food stalls and cooking pots, and nobody seems to care. For many devout Hindus, rats are considered sacred animals associated with the god Ganesha, and therefore must be respected. In temples like the famous Karni Mata, rats are fed milk and rice as part of religious devotion. That reverence extends beyond temples. In the streets, many people avoid scaring or killing rats, even when they crawl over the food. And that's not all. Millions of people in India still practice open defecation. It's well documented and continues on a massive scale. It's common to see people squatting in empty lots along rivers or on roadside dividers, scenes that have become normalized in a country with over 1.4 billion inhabitants and serious sanitation problems. The Ganges River, the ultimate symbol of Hindu faith, is perhaps the most shocking example of this contradiction. Considered sacred by millions, every day thousands of devotees bathe in its waters, believing in their spiritual cleansing power. Yet that same river receives tons of raw sewage, industrial waste, urban garbage, and even half-cremated human bodies floating in decomposition. The result is a brutal mix of faith and extreme contamination, and almost unbelievable contrast. And then there's the traffic, total madness. Cars, motorcycles, buses, pedestrians, and cows share the streets amid deafening honks, thick smoke, and a complete absence of rules. Traffic lights are ignored, lanes don't exist, and the feeling is one of being trapped in endless chaos. At every corner, the smell is an unbearable mix of sewage, rotten food, urine, and exhaust fumes. Walking through certain Indian cities is like crossing an urban battlefield,
where chaos rules and garbage is an inseparable part of the environment. Cities like Varanasi, Delhi, Mumbai, and Kolkata are an explosion of visual disorder. In India, filth is not the exception, it's the norm. It's the backdrop of a country that is fascinating and overwhelming at the same time. Food, which should nourish, often makes you sick. Faith, which should purify, coexists with rot. India dazzles with its spirituality, but it also shocks with its reality. A contrast that's hard to explain and impossible to forget.
Number 3, Pakistan. If you thought India was dirty, get ready, because Pakistan can leave you even more shocked. Here, filth isn't just on the ground, it's in the air, the water, and the food. And there's no city where this is more evident than Lahore, which in 2024 was officially ranked as the most polluted city in the world. Yes, you read that right. Lahore, one of Pakistan's biggest cities, literally breathes poison. Air pollution reaches such alarming levels that it's as if every resident is smoking dozens of cigarettes a day without even touching one. A gray haze covers the sky for weeks, and respiratory diseases are part of daily life. Children grow up with chronic coughs, the elderly depend on medication, and hospitals collapse in winter when the air becomes deadly. And all this goes hand in hand with an urban landscape invaded by filth. Garbage piles up on every corner, sewage runs openly through the streets, and the stench of rot mixes with the constant noise of car horns. Canals that were once sources of clean water are now black pits full of plastic, human waste, and chemicals dumped without control. In cities like Karachi, Lahore, and Rawalpindi, street markets reflect total abandonment. Food is cheap and aromatic, but extremely dangerous. Vendors fry samosas, grill kebabs, and serve mango juices in makeshift carts surrounded by filth. Many don't even have access to clean water to wash their hands or utensils. And in many cases, the water for drinks comes from rusty taps connected to contaminated tanks. Flies cover the food, rats crawl between stalls, and sellers handle money, food, and garbage all at once, with zero precautions. The result is an explosion of foodborne diseases: hepatitis A, typhoid fever, severe diarrhea, intestinal parasites, cholera. And who pays the highest price? The poorest, who have no choice but to eat wherever they can, despite the risks. And don't think this only happens in poor neighborhoods. Lahore, despite being a cultural and economic hub, is suffocated by trash, smoke, and sewage running through its main avenues. During the monsoon rains, the city literally floods with filth. Streets overflow with black water mixed with human feces, hospital waste, rotten food, and even dead animals. The stench spreads for kilometers, and yet street commerce doesn't stop.
In Pakistan, filth isn't just a detail, it's the environment itself. Eating street food can land you in the hospital, and breathing the air in Lahore is a daily risk to life. The World Health Organization has issued multiple warnings about the dangerous levels of pollution, but little is done. For millions of Pakistanis, there's no alternative. Survival comes before hygiene, and that says a lot about the harsh reality of a country that breathes chaos and eats among garbage.
Number 4, Egypt. Egypt is one of the most visited countries in the world. Millions of tourists travel each year to see the majestic pyramids, the temples of the pharaohs, and the mysteries of the desert. But what almost no one shows is the other side of this historic land, a shocking scene of trash, neglect, and urban chaos. Cairo is not only the country's largest city, but also one of the dirtiest on the planet. Garbage piles up on sidewalks, between cars, in alleys and corners. Plastic bags, bottles, rubble, and rotting food scatter through the streets without control. The waste collection system is inefficient, slow, and practically non-existent in poorer neighborhoods. In many areas,
residents simply burn the trash right in the street. And it's not just garbage on the ground. Cairo's air is suffocating, covered by a thick haze of dust, old car smoke, and burning domestic waste. Breathing there feels like inhaling sand mixed with gasoline. On the hottest days, the heat brings out odors from sewers where drainage runs openly. One of the most extreme examples is Manshiat Nasser, known as the Garbage City. Located in eastern Cairo, this community is home to about 60,000 people, most of them living, breathing, and working among trash. Almost all of Cairo's household waste ends up there, turning the neighborhood into a massive inhabited dump. The streets are completely covered with waste. There are no visible sidewalks, just mountains of plastic bags, broken furniture, torn clothes, decomposing food, and even discarded hospital material.
Roofs of houses are used as makeshift warehouses, piled high with debris, sacks, and recyclable materials waiting to be sorted. It's as if garbage swallowed the city and people were forced to live inside it. Children grow up playing among trash, excrement, and rats. Even the surroundings of Egypt's historic monuments, like the pyramids of Giza, the Karnak Temple, or the Egyptian Museum, are not free from filth. At first glance, the setting looks majestic, but just look around and you'll notice the neglect. Trash bags scattered near the pyramids, plastic bottles flying in the wind, camel droppings left uncollected, and food scraps rotting under the sun. The animals carrying tourists, often malnourished and mistreated, also add to this bleak picture. This brutal contrast between past glory and present decay creates a deep sadness. It's as if the treasures of antiquity are sinking into a sea of modern trash. In Egypt, even the tombs of the pharaohs are surrounded by plastic, dust, and neglect.
Number 5. Nigeria. If you thought you had seen it all, wait until you hear what happens in the streets and alleys of Nigeria, especially in its most populated city, Lagos. Here, filth isn't just a problem, it's part of the landscape. And trust me, eating street food can mean facing serious health risks, especially if you're not used to it. Lagos, with over 20 million residents, is one of the most chaotic and overcrowded urban centers in Africa. The city grows out of control, without basic infrastructure, without a proper sewage system, and with very limited garbage collection. The result? Mountains of trash pile up in the streets, canals clog and turn into stinking ditches, and food is prepared right in the middle of it all. The most extreme example is Makoko, known as the largest floating slum in the world. Built on water, Makoko is a maze of wooden stilt houses, canoes, and improvised walkways. Here, raw sewage flows directly into the canals, and trash floats between homes and shacks. There's no sewage system and no regular waste collection. Families live above dirty waters, catching contaminated fish that is then sold right there in the floating markets. And it's not just dirty water. Makoko is a full-blown sanitary nightmare. Houses are built from old wood, scrap metal, and even garbage. The ground, when it exists, is always wet, slippery, covered in black mud and human waste. There are no toilets. People relieve themselves directly in the canals. Children swim among waste, while food stalls rise on filthy planks held by rotting wood.
And the most terrifying part? Makoko isn't an exception. It reflects what happens in many parts of Nigeria. In places like Ajegunle, Mushin, and Oshodi, garbage spreads across sidewalks, streets, and alleys, forming piles of organic waste, plastic, and rotting food. Street food is a raw reflection of total lack of hygiene. Vendors prepare dishes like akara, suya, and puff-puff in improvised stalls set right next to open sewers and trash piles. The same water is often used for cooking, washing dishes, and cleaning hands. Flies cover the counters, and it's not unusual to see animal or even human waste near the food stalls. During the rainy season, the scene turns almost apocalyptic. Like in many other African countries, Nigeria lacks infrastructure to handle large volumes of water. Streets flood easily, accumulated trash is swept away, canals overflow, and sewage invades homes, shacks, and markets. Entire neighborhoods transform into real mud lakes. The filth that was already visible spreads everywhere, contaminating water, food, and air. What was a chronic problem becomes a full-blown crisis. Without sewage, without sanitation, without help, Nigeria literally sinks into its own filth. In summary, these are just some of the dirtiest, most unsanitary and polluted places on the planet. Countries where filth rules, public health fails, and human dignity is tested every single day. Places where, honestly, I wouldn't live for anything, and I imagine neither would you. Now, tell us, what shocked you the most in this video? Leave your opinion down below in the comments. If you made it to the end, don't forget to hit like and subscribe to the channel. That motivates me to keep bringing you more content. See you in the next video.